40 to 60 feet in height. There's a lot of brush
They
areas.
had a bunch of fields in the back.
Basically anything within the wetlands themselves tend to be a little bit larger, but there's a lot of evidence of clearing. Not recent, but probably within the last 20 to 40 years.
Certainly, the wetland areas are going to be a lower elevation than your array. So, do as many trees need to be cut in the buffer zone? If the land is going down, these trees are going to be at a lower, the tops of them will be at a lower elevation than they would be if it was all level land.
I see what you're saying. So they're a little bit lower. So even if they're the same height, there's a little bit less altitude.
Elevation,
Yeah, so that was
altitude.
taken into account in that shading analysis. Just for that reason. We were able to at least avoid the grubbing of the area. And for the most part, the grubbing will give you an idea of where the panels will actually be. And if you, just the normal site plan again, you can see that the panels themselves are outside of that buffer. It's just this area here where the tree clearing would be required without grubbing.
You will grub with the panels.
Yeah, just not regrading. There's actually no grading proposed on the project as far as changing the contours outside of the very slight changes along the access road. It's actually a pretty flat site, so there's not a lot of groundwork that's required.
It's a good idea.
Now, what you just sink in aluminum posts, is that what you do?
Yep.
That's right.
Actually, we're using these Terra screws, which are basically these
Big screw?
Yeah, they're big screws, and there's a machine that basically goes and it just screws them in, and then we go and we lay purlins along this way, and then slap the panels on, wire it up. It's a relatively uninvasive process. The reason why we use the screws, they're quicker and easier to use. They can go right through bedrock, and they're pretty hardy. They provide sufficient uplift protection and everything from winds to make sure the system is
Did you do
secure.
the project down in Westport?
I did not.
No. They use that same process down off Old Fall River Road
Mm-hmm.
on a couple of solar arrays down there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that.
Yeah, they screwed them in,
Yeah,
sit on top of them.
Yeah, no, they're great for Massachusetts because obviously sometimes you run into those cobbles and everything like that, and this can go right through.
Yeah, the one on Elm Street's the same thing.
Yeah, I didn't see that one, but we worked on two of them down there in Westport, Old Fall River Road. They did both of them that way.
Is the entire area going to be fenced in?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What, 6 foot, 8 foot?
6 feet is what we've proposed.
I think it might be 8.
8 feet.
Yeah.
And so the fence line is this, that goes around the arrays. So there'll be gates here to enter from the access road, and then this will all be one simple fence around the whole thing.
And where is the fence on over here? Is it in the buffer zone? Or
No,
is it-
we've made it so it was outside of the buffer zone. You can see
Okay,
here,
all
so
right.
buffer's here.
Okay, you're on, is that a different map?
Yep, this is 101.
Okay, all right.
You're on the clearing map. This is the actual site plan. And just like you were saying before, the wetland's in a lower area, so we've tried to keep everything up on top of the ridge is a strong word for what it is out there, but at the top of the bank instead of going down.
You guys got any questions?
All of these changes were a result of the email exchange with Laura Cross.
Well, so we got additional emails yesterday because it's a quick turnaround, so they were able to review some of the maps, and they had some preliminary comments, and I expect there'll be more maybe.
Yeah, I can, when you're done, I
Okay,
can
good.
just summarize.
So some of these are in response to that, as much as we could get in,
Okay.
yeah.
There was some question about road grade.
Yeah, so that's come up a couple of times, and actually we've been talking to the planning board about that as well. If you, it's difficult to see on here, but, so we do have a grading plan, so if you wanna move to maybe 102.1, just a couple more down. This grading map is pretty simple, because like I said, the only change in grade that's proposed is very slight for the access road in general. Now, along the access road itself, you can see there's dark numbers with lines, and that's the proposed grade change. And this is one that might actually be easier on here, just because the detail might get lost on that 11/17. Flip to it for you. And it's difficult to see because there's not much change. Yeah, these didn't actually print out that well, did they? This is gonna be a bad example, so the ones you have in front of me are a little bit better. But essentially, these lines here that you're looking at with the numbers are the darker numbers are the new topo lines. Now, the old topo lines are, I looked at this on my way here earlier. So the old topo lines are essentially right where the new ones are. There's slight changes just based on the existing berm and the existing conditions of that gravel path. It is very difficult to see.
Okay, but that's
Well, this is,
that's outside of the buffer.
The planning
Yeah.
board's consultant questioned the grading and how it would affect the area, and that's the response right here.
Yep. The grading is very minimal along this road, and that's the only grading that's proposed for the whole project. And actually, we got another letter from him on the 5th, I believe, and so we're just responding to them right now, because we're planning to meet with the planning board a week from today. So I do have copies of our responses to them that I can hand out to you guys, just so you have that.
I am,
Kelly?
Marty?
Yeah. You ready? Okay, I just, can't leave them up.
Sure.
Right now.
Yeah, take whatever.
No, this is fine.
Okay.
So, we did receive this set of revised plans last week, I think.
Yeah.
And, we did have a chance to look at them. We had some preliminary comments, but I think some of the major issues that, just to bring to your attention, is that these plans are not for construction, so they're conceptual. So we would recommend in any order of condition that when the construction plans are developed, that they provide them to you to make sure that they correspond with the impacts that they proposed here, and that you permit it. But that being said, I think that the two areas of, impact and potential impact, the overhead wires, the easement going through, for the interconnection, and the road, I think there needs to be more detail on that, more construction detail.
At least bigger so we can read it.
See, and, just as, as you were going through the plans tonight, these are very difficult plans to read and to see what's going on. Even we're having trouble.
I don't
You
have
know.
my glasses.
No, so, and we're gonna suggest, we preliminary suggested, a profile cross-section of the road, showing the 16-foot road. What it's gonna be, is it gonna be gravel, I believe it's gravel, and the side slopes. I believe they're stating tonight that it's gonna be 16 feet wide,
Including side slope.
including side slopes?
I believe so, Ed. I think we do have we typically have a typical.
Yeah, you do have a detail,
Yeah, it should be one of the
it-
questions.
and the detail shows,
Or is it go to the edge of the berm,
cross.
and then there's already a side slope on the berm?
No, I asked that.
well,
Yeah, I think it's included, that's typical.
but you can't tell, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not enough, the scale, and it's in the, on 501? 501?
Mhm.
Yeah. is that right? No.
Yeah, I think so.
No,
So,
there's
yeah.
another,
The soil access road.
okay, so if you look at that, C 501, the soil access road, it, you know, it shows it, but it doesn't have any dimensions on it. And it states that they're gonna slope to drain, so what does that mean? I mean, are they gonna crown it? Are they gonna slope it to drain to one side? There's just not enough detail.
And what side?
Yeah, so, cause one side has the vernal pool, and then the other side has the wetlands that are, you know, in the zone A water, which is a public water supply. So it just needs, they need to provide the commission more detail. It's not construction plans, but they can at least,
Yeah.
in the area in your jurisdiction, they should provide detail.
Exactly.
And I understand a little bit more on the poles. The poles are, looks like the two poles are right on the wetland line.
Yeah.
Now, they don't provide details on that too. What's the base of that pole gonna look like? How's that gonna be, you know, they need to provide you with what it's gonna look like. So, you know, is it just a pole in the ground, or is it gonna have a base? Is it gonna have a base, is it gonna go into the wetland at all? You know, that kind of detail. As mentioned, the GZA they haven't finished their review with the planning board, so, you know, we wouldn't recommend the commission tonight to close the hearing. One of the issues that has come up is that it's in a, public water supply watershed. So they need to treat an inch of rain versus a half an inch, so they have to look at that, so the basin may get bigger. Things like that, so the plans aren't quite done there. One of the other questions, and you probably can answer it tonight, is, one of the details on the plans is, once the panels are installed, they have to be cleaned. And I'm assuming they're cleaned, there's a maintenance.
Yep, a couple
So-
times a year.
So what do they clean with? What, is it a detergent?
Water and vinegar.
So that kind of information, I would suggest that they submit to the commission so they can add, you can add it to your order. Because it is in a public water supply watershed, so that's important.
Yes, it is.
So, let's see.
Can we add that,
Add it.
as it, like narratively, as like part of our response, like we provided here? Like
You know,
within
that
the
is,
con-
that is a way to do it, but that kind of information gets lost because it's not,
Mhm.
it's not, often those documents aren't listed on the order of conditions, so it doesn't become part of the legal. It's best to be put on the plans in a note,
Okay.
or maintenance. You may have a maintenance, operation maintenance plan that you can submit for the panels. They talk about clearing across that wetland, which is a zone A water, and they state that they're gonna be doing it during frozen ground conditions, so that the ground. But my experience with wetlands is that they don't freeze that often, you know. Now they are, but normally a wetland stays pretty wet, so it does rut up during the year. So, I would suggest that they keep out the skidders and that type of equipment, and maybe cut it by hand and maybe winch out the logs. They're not that big. So, just to keep the equipment, the major equipment out of there. That would be something I would suggest, there. So I think a little bit more detail on how that's gonna happen.
Sure.
And I also would recommend that check dams be put down gradient, so that if sediments, if the ground does get disturbed, which it will,
During the clearing. you
during,
mean?
yeah,
Okay.
sediments can be, sediment transport can be
Yes.
mitigated. So those are just real quick, and we've asked them so it sounds like they're gonna be submitting another set of plans.
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe we can get them after, once you're done with GZA and the planning board, so that Just, you can save time and money,
So I
and you
I
can
think-
review one final set of plans, probably would be best.
Just from like a version standpoint, what we were hoping to do is go meet with the planning board next week, show them the progress on the comments that we had received last week, go over the approach, make sure that we've satisfied the previous round, and then our approach for the current round of comments is okay, and then take your comments, their comments, implement everything into the next set of plans, and then next month we'll submit them to you guys to the planning board was kind of what we were hoping.
Very good.
Yeah, so that's,
And this gives us a couple weeks.
It's gonna be at Crown Road.
yeah.
And just,
You see it right
can I
there.
give you
Yeah,
some
yeah,
feedback
yeah.
on that?
Yeah.
So we,
Match existing, match
we
existing.
have been able to kind of start our next round of preliminary plans. And we have, I just looked at the draft that I have with me, which we literally just finished today, right before coming here, so this will be on it, and we do have a cross-section of the road on the new draft, which shows the side slopes and the drainage, so that absolutely will be on the next round. And we do have a note in there about frozen and hand clearing.
Okay.
So, but we can get rid of the frozen if that would help. Basically, we would only do frozen if it was actually frozen,
Yeah, that's
but we
right.
have a
Yeah.
hand clearing option as a note in there as
Yeah.
well. So that should help. And also we have added a pole detail in this next round of, which you will see in the final plans, but just to give you an idea of what it looks like, it's just gonna be a wooden pole, direct, there we go. It's kind of a boring detail, cause it's just a pole on the ground. So it won't have a ballast or a base or anything like that. So we are working on those and we will include them.
And that'll be done.
He's
with
been
the
bouncing
utility.
around over
Yeah.
there
We'll
with
be
his
working
hand
with-
trying to get in here.
We'll be working with the utility on
Yeah.
that stuff as well, so everything will be done to,
Yeah, yeah, it's-
their specification.
Yeah, right.
and
Mhm.
detail.
Please.
So Francis Christofiuli, 1730 Wellington Street, I'm in a butter to the property. My house is shown on the plan on the southwestern portion, roughly 50 feet, actually exactly 42 feet from the property line. So I certainly have concerns on this project. I'm slightly downhill. I'm on well water, so I certainly have a concern with any potential impact to my water supply as well as the public water supply. I'm also extremely concerned that this is within the core and critical habitat as outlined in the town's master plan. And certainly, I would ask the board to consider that as part of your decision. I would also make the recommendation, again, the plans are deemed, less than desirable. I would highly recommend that the board make a site visit to really understand the magnitude and the impact. I'm very intimately knowledgeable about the property, been hunting it for, more than 2 decades. It's really a cart path, significantly rutted, concerned with the actual vernal pool that's there, as well as a potential impact to other potential vernal pools that are in that area. And again, I look forward to understanding, your decision at some point.